Internet, and welcome to another episode of My Cool Friends. If this is your first time being here, first of all, hello, welcome. There's punch and cookies for you at the front door. And if this is not your first time being here, let me say, oh wow, you came back? Welcome. The crazy room is to the left. Let me just say, this is a very, very special guest we have with us today, ladies and gentlemen. She already has a gigantic smile across her face. She does not know what's going on. Years ago, I made the plunge to start my own business, and I got to meet some amazing people along the journey. Today, my friends, is one of those very special and very amazing people. She has her own products that she helps create and distributes all around the globe. She is in the process of launching her own podcast as well. And something that I am very, very proud to announce. She is doing all of this, and she is 72. She is a shining example. I know she gets tired just me saying that. She is a shining example that it is never too late to go and do that thing that you are dreaming to go do. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, with homemade sound effects, Miss Anne Zuckerman! Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on. It's been a long time since we've seen each other.
It's been way too long, I must say. And so with that being said, we touched on it a little bit beforehand, but I must say, what is new with you? I hear you're in the process, or at least the birds tell me, that you're in the process of launching a new podcast.
I have launched.
I've
the birds already launched.
The birds lied. You have launched.
Yes. 2 weeks ago, and this was my first full week. 2 weeks ago, I launched with 8 mini episodes. Ooh. It was very exciting.
Well, that deserves a celebration from the anonymous Facebook user.
And I did a fabulous class with one of your previous guests, Cami Lehman.
Yes, we talked about this so on when I had Cami on, I just called her up and said hey Cami, you want to be on the show tonight? And she was doing her podcasting school at the time, and it's oh wow, Cami's gonna be on a show with Ben, and you were watching at the time.
I was, and I wrote you and I said, wow, this was so exciting. I haven't seen you for 3 years, and the last time I saw you, you were at an airport.
Yeah, we just passed by. It's hey, it was so nice seeing you. Bye. And that was it.
Yeah, it was. So, yes, I was in the middle of class, and it was a whirlwind, but it was fabulous. And what happened was that Cami did a presentation in a networking group, and I called her up and I said, I think I'd like to be a guest on some podcasts. And she said, well, I'm starting a school. And I said, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm joining the school then. And she said, oh, and by the way, in 28 days, you're going to have your own podcast. And I said, okay.
What kind of okay was this? Was this an exciting okay, or was this a okay? I don't want to do this, but okay.
No, there are times when I open my mouth and I'm convinced that somebody else's voice is speaking for me, and that was the experience. The voice said yes, and then the rest of me said, what have I done? And then I did an interview with someone, and she said, so where can people find you? And I gave the name of my website, which is the same as my podcast. And when I got off, I said, I'm in it now. There's no going back.
How
I'm
did
in.
I trip into this?
For sure. And then, of course, I got scared.
And Anne is a rock star podcaster, says our anonymous Facebook user. And I must say, like 6 minutes in, I agree with this anonymous Facebook user, and I'm pretty sure I know who you are.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting. It's been really interesting and fascinating. I've had an opportunity to speak to people who I may or may not have ever spoken to,
Right.
and I get to ask them questions. It's
So,
really pretty cool.
so like this plunge that you went off and like this different person that was speaking for you, and then you said like, oh God, what have I done? Was it, how would you describe that feeling? Was it scary? Was it nerve-wracking? Outside your comfort zone? Like, how would you describe that? Like, how would you describe that emotion?
It wasn't outside of my comfort zone until I realized what I had done. But I've been there before. And I think that it's really important to be able to step outside your comfort zone and do things that you've never done before.
Right.
And short of, so I'll tell you one of my best outside my comfort zone.
Oh, tell me.
A friend of mine decided to have a kind of mini mastermind, but part of it was going to one of those places where you get to experience flying. You're in a tube.
Oh, like one of the like air.
Yeah.
Yeah, air tubes. Yeah.
So she said, so you want to go? And I said, well, yeah, this will be fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got there and I said, OMG, what am I doing here? And they zipped me up in a suit. And I said, well, okay, fine. How old was the oldest person who's done this? And the guy said something like 90. And so I said, okay, fine. I'm not going to die. So I get inside the tube and the air is, and you have to fall on top of the air. And right. You're just kind of hanging there. And then he asks if you want to do a high fly, and you go up something like 75 feet. It's crazy. So I'm petrified. Okay. And I'm petrified through the whole experience. I'm shaking like a leaf. It's exciting. It's exhilarating. And then they ask you if you want a video of your experience. And of course you say yes. So I get the video and I'm really pleased with myself. And then I realize he was standing next to me and I was at his waist level. So what did I honestly think was going to happen? If I fell, I was going to fall like 3 feet on a screen, on a bouncy screen. What exactly was going to happen to me?
There's a good movie out there. Have you ever seen the movie called Yes Man?
No, but it's on my list.
Okay. Definite recommendation to you and everyone watching. Yes Man. It's a Jim Carrey movie. It's about a guy who like basically like his friends have to like force him to do anything. Like his regimen is like go to the video rental store back when we had those. And then just spend every single day like watching different movies. He's offered different promotions at work, but he turns them down because he stays in the comfort zone. And eventually he goes to a seminar, and the big message that he's like gets delivered to him is like make a covenant, and like when an opportunity presents itself, just say yes. It's like, what's the harm? What's the danger? And like that is what I see in like that story you said. Like there's like it's an opportunity. Like you're not going to die. You might feel that feeling in the back of your head. It's like, oh God, there's new, therefore there is danger. But you're not going to die from something new most of the time.
Well, I spoke to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, "You say yes to everything." And I thought
Right.
about it, and I thought, well, as a child, my family always said no. Whatever my idea was, it was going to be no. So apparently, I've reached an age in my life where somebody offers me an opportunity, and I say
Right.
yes, and then I
That
think
sounds like
about it later.
I try to push that now, like on my dad. Like, hey, this is something new. New is good. Try this, because there's only like there's so many things in the world. We need to open ourselves up to new experiences. And so with that in mind, perfect segue. So this podcast, like, we've gone over the fear now. We have this new experience. How have you changed from having this new experience, from being able to sit down and talk with people, and like having this gift now on a regular basis?
Well, I have to admit, I'm still very nervous. And so it's a lot of responsibility. I want to make sure that my guest is able to
Mhm.
shine. So it's it's more difficult than maybe I thought. I also want to know a little bit about my guests, so I want to be prepared. So that's a bit of a challenge. I have to do my homework. But the great part is that if I want to speak to someone, I send them an invitation to come on my podcast. And so today I invited someone who I've never met, but I saw her on another podcast and I thought, wow, she's somebody I'd really like to speak with.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen people I know on different podcasts, and that's been exciting, like when I saw you. So it was, you know, it's a world that has opened. And
It's a new
I'm
door that's available to you.
Yeah. And I've loved networking. I've been at conferences with you. I
Mm-hmm.
love the energy. I love the people. I speak to everybody around me. So I've gotten to know a whole bunch of people, and this gives me an opportunity to call them and say, okay, fine, let's chat on the air.
Right. I've noticed what you're talking about too, because it has a different effect when you say like, oh, hey, do you want to like schedule a Zoom call to talk sometime? All of a sudden, like, I'm really busy. Like, I'm not sure if I quite want to do that. It has this like connotation of like, hey, can I have something from you? Because now you're asking for their time. But when
Yeah.
you say to someone, hey, would you like to come and make content with me? This has all of a sudden has like a completely different connotation to it. It's like, now, hey, we're gonna go create something. It's gonna be beautiful. We're gonna go share our knowledge. You can go and share it to your audience. It'll be there forever on YouTube, or at least it should be there on YouTube. I hope it is. You all should be publishing on YouTube, is what I'm saying. Uh, and it's beautiful, and it like you said, it opens that door, um, to like different, like, just I love sitting down with people and like discovering their stories. I've noticed that personally. Have you noticed that as well?
Oh, yeah, it's really exciting. And I loved podcasts before.
Mm-hmm.
I have been listening to whenever I'm in the car, I'm listening to either a podcast or a book. And I've even used that as an excuse. Excuse me, I have to go to the grocery store, but not the grocery store that close to me. I need to drive an hour away because I'm listening to a book and I know how many chapters I'm going to be able to listen to, or how many podcasts I can listen to on the way to the grocery store and then on the way back. So I
Ah,
get really excited about that. But on that same note, so when I decided that I was going to actually launch the podcast, I started calling friends and saying, by the way, I'm going to be launching a podcast. And a lot of my friends said they never listen to podcasts.
what kind of friends are you hanging out with?
And that's the point. I've got to get a new set of friends.
I that's my reaction for a lot of things. Like, hey, Ben, have you heard about this new thing? Like, no, you get a really different Facebook feed than I do because I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, so when you say like, oh, none of my friends listen to podcasts, like, what people are you hanging out with?
Seriously. I mean, I've enjoyed them for several years now. So it's been an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, it was described to me one time that much like what you're saying, like podcast listeners are active people. They're typically doing something like, oh, you're mowing the lawn or you're like doing some work at the desk. I'm typically like either doing something at my desk, playing a video game, or like I'm driving or something and I'm listening to something, but we're always doing something. We're like they're an active base.
Yeah, it's perfect for multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. I absolutely love it. And now that I'm in it, I'm listening more. So and I have a good excuse. I'm sorry, I have to do my homework.
An excuse, we say.
Yeah. So and who knew when we met? You this was not part of what you thought you'd be doing.
that this
Yeah.
it's funny because like I describe myself as going full circle. So before I met you, I did a gaming YouTube channel.
That's right.
And yeah, I remember keeping this like hush a little bit in our 2CCX group. Uh and I said like, I want like I'm shifted over to like, hey, like I want to do computer bots. And then I shifted back to YouTube, almost like I've made a full circle journey. It's like, you know what? I was good at this thing before. Why didn't I keep doing this thing? And I know why I didn't keep doing that thing. It was because of like outside opinions got in my head. It's like, oh, this isn't professional or whatever, but there's a value in everything. One thing, by the way, hi Cammy, this is gonna be a shout out for you. We do like trivia nights every single couple of weeks, and someone asked me one time, like, hey Ben, like, how'd you come up with the idea for this? Like, this is brilliant. And all I did was I took an idea from one community and I brought it over to another group of people where it was unknown, and therefore it's a fresh idea, and now it's like, oh, new idea blossomed popular, and now we have like this gaming pseudo networking event that is very, very beautiful. But that couldn't have happened if I didn't like actually lean into what I already knew instead of like trying to like plant a whole new tree.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me too.
Tell
I
me.
mean, I if this wasn't even in my wildest dreams. And I think that because in my world, growing up, you grew up, you got a 9 to 5 job, and that's what you did. Or in my case, my family had a retail business. So you grow up and you move into the retail business and you work 6 days a week. And now you have a job.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was it was a brick and mortar. And I didn't own the building because my mother decided that she didn't want to have property for whatever reason. And so, because I didn't own the building, I ended up having to close the business after she passed away. And then what? And now I'm older and I don't have a job. So what do? You just walk out into the sunset and disappear. It was crazy. So I created my own business, but then you're not in the 9 to 5 world and you don't have a title.
Mm-hmm.
And so my family, if my family unfortunately had passed away, but if they had still been living, it would be, well, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? So, but it's wonderful. And there is a world out there that isn't 9 to 5.
Right. We perpetuate that idea because the people who are perpetuating it best serves them.
That would be true. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited about all of the possibility and everything I've been able to learn and the people I've been able to meet and how it all comes together. It's truly wonderful.
I think that's a great segue into like another question I wanted to ask you today. Which is that she says with like oh my, what does he have behind the curtain? You're 72
Yes.
and you're doing all of this, like you built your websites, you have a podcast. Just the fact that you're 72 and you're like sitting in front of like the camera right here, like that is astounding. Like I had to pull teeth in order to get my grandma to do a 15-minute interview. And so what my question is, why? Because most of the people your age are enjoying retirement, and here you are like full steam ahead at new things.
Originally it was to keep my business going. So that was the impetus. And when you met me, that's what I was trying to do. Basically, I had discovered that I had a product. How do you advertise that product? And someplace along the line, I was introduced to the idea of a funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some funnel cakes too, but that was another story. So I was introduced to the concept of a funnel. So I decided that's what I needed to learn. And when you met me, that's what I was desperately trying to learn. I never did get the tech stuff under control. I mean, I have just recently put a funnel together from start to finish with all the tech, with all the back stuff. It took me 4 years. 4 years. But I will say part of it's not my problem. You know, they give you these directions and you go on YouTube and you say, okay, fine, I can do this. And they're telling you step by step what to do, but they don't, for some reason, they haven't updated the videos. So the way I describe it is I'm in the middle of a video moving right along, and then somebody took down all the road signs and they're just telling me to turn right and left, but they're not telling me where I'm going.
I have been in this part of the journey before. I describe it as like my journey learning Photoshop. All the like the promotional art for this show and that's all made by me. And if it's not made by me, like it's made by someone who is taught step by step by me how to do it. And when I learned Photoshop, like it was a process of like Googling like what does the Dotty tool do in Photoshop? And that's not what it's called. So I have to like go through the process of learning proper vocabulary and then Google the right thing and then hope you find the correct thing where your answer is.
Well, that was my other problem. I have discovered that I really, in the world of computers and web and all of that, I'm always asking the wrong questions.
Right.
I mean, I literally need a thesaurus next to me to tell me what I'm supposed to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I'm asking the right question, but apparently I'm not. So it's a challenge. But so originally I got into it because I wanted to promote my product, and how was I going to do that? And so I had to learn this, and then I had to learn that, and then I had to learn something else. And then I hired somebody to help me, and he was talking about an email sequence, but then he said, so go write it. I said, wait a minute. I hired you to help me. This is not helping.
Oh, So so this learning process, I want to talk about that. Like you had this feeling of like always asking the wrong questions. Do you still feel like that, or have you like escaped this feeling of asking the wrong questions until have you gotten out of this rut, or is it always that sort of lingering feeling at the back of your head?
Uh, well, when I'm speaking to people, it's not there. It's when I'm trying to get tech support that I've got the challenge. But on a day to day basis, it's not that big a deal. Although I do speak to my dogs a lot and they don't always get what I'm saying.
And it's like, yep, I'm here for you. Which is interesting that you like say like, oh, it's not there with people, but it is there with machines. It's
Yeah.
almost like there's an abundance of information out there, but when we're here with people, then all of a sudden now we know, like, oh hey, like I know how to have a human relationship. It's like I know how to ask the right questions to the proper person. It's just this library of information I don't know where to sort through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. In different scenarios, you have a different language.
Right.
So that is challenging, very challenging.
Did you ever have this like when you were like doing your podcast, or did Cam was that part of like was Cammy your person?
Cammy's my person, but with this avenue, there's certainly so much to learn.
Right.
So I'm beginning to understand more, I hope.
So let's talk about you for what tell us more about what you do. We've touched on your podcast. We've touched on the learning process. Now let's talk about like, so you spent a lot of this time like 3 years ago doing funnels and funnel cakes. Where are you now today?
Well, you've got my website, one of my websites streaming across the bottom.
Conveniently.
And I did build that. So that's good. And I'm doing a little bit more with, um, I work with a platform that is an all inclusive platform that has CRM and funnels and workflows and pipelines. So I'm still working my way through that. And social media. I mean, I don't, what do I know? I still sign my emails sincerely. And I realize that, whoa, is that a giveaway?
Not necessarily. It's just formal. I remember when I was taking like a marketing class, it was like that was the things like, hey, make it professional. Um, so that's not as much of a giveaway as you might think.
Okay, well, and I'm beginning to learn about Reels and TikTok and all of that. And that's also challenging.
Mm,
So,
that's a rabbit hole. Welcome to my madness.
a total rabbit hole. So, but we all have to walk down it at some point. I
Right.
mean, it's there. So I need to learn more about that. I was listening to a podcast recently about digital twins and something else. And I know nothing about that either. So it's something else I need to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
It's exciting.
But you're involved in e-commerce, is that right?
Yeah, very much so. I'm very involved with e-commerce with a physical product.
Uh, uh,
So,
so tell us about that. Like, so what do you do in that regard?
so I have a physical product, and it can be found at busywoman.com versus .shop. And I saw a product and I thought I can do better than that. And through circumstance, I ended up meeting a design engineer, and I said, "Look, I've seen this product. I think I can do better. Can you help me?" And he said, "Yeah." So we sat down, we developed the product, we got a patent. And then I used everything I had to purchase prototype molds. It's a resin-based product, so it's manufactured in a facility. Originally, I had an aluminum prototype mold, and then eventually worked up to a steel mold. And so it's at a manufacturing facility where they heat up the resin. It goes through a channel into the mold, and then the mold separates and drops the product.
Okay.
So that's been fascinating, absolutely fascinating how products are made. I've chosen to manufacture here in the United States because I get to go to the manufacturing facility and actually see the product being made, which is incredible. I would have never believed that I would be involved with that either.
Yeah.
But it's truly exciting. It's exciting. I've also had to learn a different side of business.
Right.
My family business was brick and mortar retail, and I had to learn how to wholesale a product and everything involved with that. So it's been an incredible journey.
Yeah, it's so you have this whole entire journey of like you described, like you came from like whole like retail and now you're distributing your own product. Was that ever this idea of like, oh man, like this is unknown territory to me, but and here you are on the other side and you've conquered it. What's that feeling like?
Yeah, well, when I can remember standing in the store and looking at something and saying, I could do better than that. And then 2 weeks later, I had an opportunity to start. And the thing was that my mother had passed away. I took everything I had because I thought at the time I was old. I was old, I was single, and it was now or never. And I wasn't going to live that much longer anyway. And that was close to 20 years ago. So, and since then, I got married. So who knew? I mean, who knew? But this is the thing. You get to a certain point in your life and there are opportunities come up, and you have to be able to say yes to the opportunity and be open to the possibility. So I don't know anything about this, but maybe. I don't know anything about that, but okay, fine. Maybe I should find out. And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I said, well, I'm old and this is my one opportunity. And so when you met me, I went all in head first and said, okay, fine. I need to learn how to do funnels. I went to different conferences. And the one thing I found at the conferences was I was surrounded by people who were happy, interested, and very inquisitive. People who
Right.
said, okay, fine, this is what I know, but I want to find out what else is out there. And that to me it's such an adrenaline rush.
Right. I I think it's the adrenaline rush because a lot of times, like I forget what the exact figure is, but like most people who like once they leave school or once they leave college, they stop reading. They stop reading books once they're required to, and they once they like get that certificate of like, hey, I'm certified in my field. They stop learning about their field, and then you and me get thrown into a group of people who don't stop learning, who are constantly like learning about like, hey, like what's that next thing that we're looking for. Like we're constantly like looking to better ourselves, whether it be like ourselves personally or trying to grow something externally that can serve us, all of a sudden now it's very stark and different from the rest of the world. Is that's how I'm kind of seeing it. What do you think?
Oh, so true. So true. And I love it. I absolutely love it. If I had known this when I was young, it would have been it would have been so much better. But yeah, I find the same thing. That's why I'm so excited about podcasting,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it is a world that I can reach into and expand. And then I do research. I learn about people. I learn about what they're doing, and that's exciting too. And there's so much opportunity now, and there's so many people doing crazy, crazy things,
Mm-hmm.
and it's exciting. Years ago, I was at a conference, and one of the things that the speaker had us do was he gave us all a paper clip, and we had to break up into small groups and think of all the ways to use a paper clip.
Mm.
And that was just an amazing moment for me, because you can look at anything, and if you really think about it, what are the ways that you can use small objects um, in a in a different in a different way? Having said that, there was one other example of that, and that is there was an architect named Charles Eames. He created the Eames chair, and his wife was Ray Eames, and she was I believe I have this right. She was an artist, and he was an architect, and they decided that they would build their first home, and they purchased the property, and they purchased all of the supplies necessary to build the home from a catalog. And I think it may have been the Montgomery Ward catalog. But anyway, they had everything shipped to the lot. And then they decided that they wanted to redesign their house, but only using the materials that they'd purchased. And so it's the same kind of thing as the paperclip. Okay, fine. We have all of this. Now, how are we going to redesign it? It's like a puzzle, redesign
Mm-hmm.
it using what we have. And if you look at the world that way, there are so many times in our lives where we have challenges. And if we just step back and say, okay, fine, this is the challenge. How do I get around it? How do I accomplish what I want to accomplish?
There,
It's
there's a like I didn't watch this entire series. I just heard about it through the grapevine. But there was a series of TikTok videos out there where this guy took a rock and traded it up to, like, from what I understand, he was trading it up to a house. Um
wow.
and yeah, and like imagine like taking like different things. Like at one point he took like he traded up like a binder full of like classic Pokemon cards, and he traded it up to a car to somebody. And he started from a rock that he picked up on the ground, and his goal was to trade up to a house. And that's the sort of things like we don't always consider the cards that we're holding in our hands and the vastness of what we can do with them. Like this right now, like what I'm using right now, like, aside from the things that I use to do this, which is not necessary to do the show. I just really like doing stuff like this. Um, there's really no external like programs that I've downloaded to make all of this work. Uh, aside from Google Chrome, because Chrome is the future. Um, like there's nothing fancy going on my computer. Like if you got a clean internet connection, you can do this too. Yet, none of us, like most people don't see these cards in our hand. We just think, oh, I don't know how to do that, therefore I shall not do that. And
Yeah.
we think that that door is closed to us.
So true. So true. And I thought the same thing. I didn't
Mhm.
think that I'd be able to launch a podcast. I never even thought about what it entailed. All I knew was that there were people who did that, but they were up there, and that was out of my realm. And
I giggle because I know how silly that is now.
it is. It truly is. Although I will tell you that when I started getting into the whole funnel and website thing, I joined a program and I needed to create a 4-minute video. 4 minutes. So I grabbed a tripod, I grabbed my phone, I went out into the backyard because I thought I had to be outside, and I had a lapel mic.
To be
So I
clear,
was,
no one said you had to be outside for this,
well,
right?
everybody else who had done this 4-minute video was outside. So I figured I had to be outside. So I go outside, and the next thing I know, there's a dog running around. So I was totally distracted. So I
Mhm.
packed everything up and I went into the front yard. And then the UPS guy came and he waved at me. So I had to stop that. So then the next day I decided, now I'm going to get it done. It's 4 minutes, 4 minutes. And I go to another place, and I live in the country. So I go down this road that no one ever goes down. As a matter of fact, it you never see a car. And
Mhm.
I set up my tripod and my phone, and I'm all set to go. And a sports car drives by, and then somebody goes running by. 6 hours later, I finally got my 4 minutes done. 6 hours.
Oh my.
So, yeah, there are challenges.
So, like just thinking out loud, like what I think about is like 6 hours for a 4 minute video, like, and you're in the country, and like number one, that's just like funny bad luck. Uh, but number two, like I think like like I've definitely done stuff like that. Like I've done the like going to film a selfie video outside. Why am I doing this? Um, Now I just like take a selfie video like sitting right here. Like I did this the other day. I think I took a selfie video of me sitting right here, and then I sent it to myself over Facebook, and then downloaded it for a web page, and then boom, that's it, done. Um, that tripod back there, you'll be humorized to know that that is just a selfie stick that is duct taped to an actual camera tripod. Because boy, was I not gonna, like, I'm sure I have like fancy actual like standing tripods that they have on Amazon. Was I gonna spend money on those? No, I just duct taped my selfie stick to the tripod and it works fine. Do I use it most of the time? No. I just do this record button on my phone and then we call it good. um for this and the thank you, Cammy. And I'd love to know Cammy's thoughts on this next part, like how I do this show. Like practicing it and making it a routine is probably the hardest part. um Therefore, make it easy for you. If it's going to be a routine, make it the easiest routine for you. uh, just because everyone else is doing it at noon, if that's the hardest thing for you, that doesn't mean you have to do it at noon. You can
True.
do it at whatever time you like. And if you do it at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday for over a year, people will know that Ben does his show at 8:30 p.m. on a Friday because you've been doing it for so long. Um, that's and then that's how I do my shtick. Uh, we got one hundos.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's great. It's great. And you can choose what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I don't have to argue with CBS on when I air my show.
Seriously. Yeah, I've used duct tape as well to put stuff together. I have advanced though. I do now have a phone clip. So if I do something on my phone, I can clip it to my tripod. But yeah, you do what you got to do.
So I want to know, did you edit that 4-minute video that it took you 6 hours to make? Did you edit that video, or
Uh,
did you actually wait for a 4-minute window for you to record that? What was the behind the scenes production of that?
the behind the scenes was I was sweating a lot. Um, yeah, no, I am really bad at editing. I love Photoshop, but editing sound and video, I don't know why I can't grasp it, but I can't. So it was going to be the way it was, and that was the way it was going to be. And since there are some things that I wish I could clean up, like erase, but in the grand scheme of things, people say that you want to appear human. So I use that as my excuse. I'm human.
Well, that's why I do this show live. So, like, I know how to edit. I could edit out like mistakes and whatnot. But as I've mentioned before, like there was a couple of shows that I did before this, and in one of those shows, I went the whole 100 yards, and I edited out like in a 45-minute period. I edited out every single blum, and then stutter. She's giggling already as I'm saying this. Because you probably know how oh my pointless that was. And eventually I just said, like, I don't care. I don't care if someone hears me stutter. I don't care if a dog comes in. We're just going to roll with it. Like, whose line is it anyway? And that is going to be the episode. And we're going to build the audience off of that. And it's going to be just fantastic.
So true. I mean, that's what I've done. That's what I've done. I listen to everything I record. And at the beginning, I was going to take out all the ums. And then I said, this isn't going to be good. And I don't know how the editing team is going to deal with it either. So that's the way it is. I'm just going with it.
Yeah, it's that like humans talk like that, and so it feels more like you said, it feels more authentic in order to have those things in there. In the long scheme of things, most people are listening to your stuff on an increased speed, so that stuff isn't even going to be noticed most of the time. And don't worry, Cammy, we'll get you a beep button. We all know that Cammy needs a beep button.
Well, wait a second. If she gets a beep button, then maybe I need one of those. I need one of those big red buttons that you can just because tech.
I got one over here with all my sound effects. I have a beep button. Oh my! So speaking of Cammy, the podcast.
And she's sitting right here.
And she's here now. In the other room. Don't worry. She's not in my basement. I swear. Oh, speaking of Cammy, you're a part of her podcasting school, and you've launched your podcast.
I have.
Tell us, and we've touched a little bit on the beginning hour. We're gonna cap it off at the bottom of the hour. Are you planning on launching any other podcasts, or are you sticking with just the one?
Just the well, I have a podcast that goes live every single week. So just one is fine. I don't need any more topics. I'm not going in any other directions. It's
Yeah, you're not
just
sticking with just the one? Awesome.
for sure.
Is there anything else that you want to share with us today? Where can we find you, Miss Anne?
Well, the name of my podcast is Just Wanted to Ask. So, and that's also the name of my website. So if you want to learn anything about the podcast or me, it's at justwantedtoask.com or Just Wanted to Ask on iTunes. And then, of course, BusyWoman.shop, which is scrolling across the bottom.
That is an awesome name. Just Wanted to Ask. Go ahead and check out that over on the iTunes or the podcasting platform of your choice. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Miss Anne Zuckerman, and I must say, it has been far too long since we have chatted, and I have absolutely loved getting to catch up with you today.
Thank you so very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week with another new guest for my cool friends. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, remember to stay safe and stay healthy, my friends. And greetings from Pikachu. Bye-bye, everybody.